welcome to Wanderlust Herbal Podcast. It's a podcast with me, Fiona Morris, where we talk about wild remedies, plants and people around the world. And today I am joined by the wonderful Elisabeth Brooke, who is a herbalist, astrologer, author and all-round magical being. So I am delighted to have you here. Welcome, Elisabeth.
Thank you for inviting me, Fiona.
Oh. So let's see, where shall we begin? We've worked together in the past. You've come up to Scotland when I was living in the borders, and you ran some magical herbal retreats. So I'm really grateful that you were able to do that. We did a different season each time. I think we went through the 4 seasons. So it's really nice to reconnect, and we have lots in common: the herbs, the astrology, and also travel. You've recently come back from teaching in Greece, I believe. How was your journey?
And one of the lovely things about traveling as a herbalist is that you get to see the plants. And one of the herbs that I learned about many years ago when I was training was
Mm-hmm.
Vitex agnus
Mm-hmm.
castus.
Yep.
And I'd never seen it grow. And then one day I
Oh,
was walking past an inlet in Greece, and there it was. It was like my
oh,
old friend.
oh my goodness.
Hello,
Oh,
lovely Vitex. And that was last year. And then this year I saw it again, and I was with a Japanese herbalist,
mm-hmm.
Saori, and she
Mm.
found different strains of Vitex. So she went for a walk up towards the waterfall, and pink Vitex, purple Vitex, white Vitex. And she and I were so excited because we were both herbalists to see. It's like an
Yeah.
old friend. I was so excited. And there it
Oh,
was, waving
lovely.
at me,
Uh-huh.
waving.
That's so nice. Did you bring a little piece of Vitex back with you? Yeah.
I did.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
I wrote a Substack about it, and
Ah, yes, I saw
because
that.
I learnt my herbs years ago, and there's been lots of research, particularly
Mm-hmm.
Persian universities, Malaysian universities,
Mm-hmm.
some very Chinese, very interesting research, and I found out that they've done research with Vitex on postmenopausal insomnia, which they
Ah.
believe is due to progesterone deficiency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we were taught that Vitex was a progesteronal precursor, or
Mm-hmm.
has an action on precursor. And it was like, oh, I love
Ah.
that connection there. It's like Vitex waving at
Mm.
me writing a blog, and then me finding out, because I had a patient at the time who was suffering badly from insomnia and was
Mm-hmm.
postmenopausal. So
Right.
I love that synastry, yes, that
Yes.
connecting.
Oh,
Yeah.
lovely. Oh, that's so nice. And lovely to put a face to a plant as well, especially when, we learn about these herbs in books, and they're quite two-dimensional. You might see a drawing or, one of these botanical, it's a beautiful botanical art, but until you actually meet it in person, you don't really kind of get the spirit. But on that note, I'm sort of reminded of the wonderful workshops that I've attended with yourself, where we get to meet the plant, and actually even just a small piece of, if you're not meeting the whole plant, just having a small piece of the dried or fresh plant, which I think we use both during the workshops that I attended when you came up to Scotland. And I really love how you dive so deeply into the plants. And actually, I was having a little look at your book, the Women's Book of Herbs, just before we came on the call. And, I was flicking through, and the way you describe each of the plants really kind of goes, you talk about the myths and legends, you talk about the emotional, the physical, emotional, and magical uses. And it brought me back to that experience. And you mentioned actually in the foreword, the acknowledgements of your book, you're talking about a teacher who was your intuitive guide, or an intuitive mentor who also helped you to connect more deeply with the plants in that way. And I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about how you came into that journey of working so intuitively with plants. Would you like to share a bit?
Yeah. When I first qualified in the early 1980s, I worked in a collective of alternative practitioners. There were two acupuncturists, an osteopath, a masseuse, a homeopath, and me. And we worked in this beautiful old falling down old building, really hippie place. And people used to wander in and chat because we took turns to do the receptionist bit. It was all very, basic stuff. And one day this psychic walked in called Susan Marion Child. She's an American woman. And she just started talking to us and said, "Would you like to learn psychic skills?" So we all said yes, because we used to do things as a group as well. We used to
Yeah.
do work, teach each other our skills. And so she taught us, what is it called? Psychometry, where you hold things and you get energy from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved all that stuff. I'm very into all that. And then the next meeting we arranged for the collective. It was in my house and I was running it. And I suddenly had this idea because I'm a fire sign. I get ideas like this. And I thought, I wonder if you could do psychometry with plants. And they weren't herbalists. None of them were herbalists. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know anything
Wow.
about the plant. And it was amazing what we found out. And so I started running groups, and particularly I ran groups with people who were not herbalists, because that's the best way, because herbalists
Mhm.
overthink
Yeah.
these things. So
Yeah.
I just started running groups on the new moon and the full moon. I did them for years, and I did them all over the world. I've done them all over the world.
Wow.
Extraordinary stuff we found out, extraordinary. And I put it in
Incredible.
that book, which
Yeah.
is now, it's actually, I've got this is the reprinted one,
Uh-huh.
Aeon
Yeah.
books. Um, I put it in the book, but after about, I suppose, 10 years, I think, working in little groups,
Mm-hmm.
astonished. I was astonished and very moved, actually. And
Mm-hmm.
because I always felt an emotional connection to nature, very strong, but messages, information, deep learning, and it made perfect sense to me. And because
Yeah.
I was very young, I was in my mid 20s.
Mm-hmm.
It really helped me working with people, really helped me working with
Mm.
people, because you think you know things at that age and you don't really. So it helped to get a
Yeah.
whole picture of
Right.
how to work with plants. And what it did
Mm.
very strongly was reinforce my belief that you need to use the herbs in your environment. And that
Mm-hmm.
is the bandwagon that I was on and still remain on,
Right.
that you use what grows around you. Because
Yeah.
the way I got into herbs originally was that I was living in Amsterdam
Mm-hmm.
in the 70s and stuck in a house with lots of other people. And a guy bought me three books. One book was on macrobiotics and one was a herbal
Yeah.
by John Lust. It was called Back to Eden.
Oh, I've got that one as well.
You got
Yeah.
that one
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
That was the way he gave me the tea books. And
Ah,
macrobiotics, of course, is all about eating in your environment and
right.
all that
Yes.
stuff. And I
Ah,
read the book, and that's why I started the training, because I thought this
ah,
is interesting
yeah.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, it followed that you would, with the macrobiotics and the herbal, that you would use the stuff that grows around you. You would not import your plants. And that's a very
Mm.
strong thing with me, that I
Mm-hmm.
really only want to use things that you can grow in Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, you can grow Vitex in the UK, but I'm not sure
Right.
it's as strong. But you can grow
Okay.
most things that I use. I found someone, a herbalist called Sandra O'Neill, who's growing hydrastis, golden seal.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
Fantastic. And
Yes.
you can grow licorice and all the common ones. But that was particularly my take on herbalism. And then doing the magical stuff was reinforcing that,
Yeah.
because they're part of our being, they're part of our psyche, they're part of our energy, aren't they?
Yes.
And
And
certainly, um, when I see them, like when I describing with Vitex, when I see them growing up, I
mm,
get so excited. It's like this year
mm,
there's lots of cowslip in a place
right.
that really not been any. And it's like,
Yes.
I cowslip, and then me
Oh,
talking to plants, and people walk past you and you think, who's that mad
yeah.
woman?
Yes.
But it's a very emotional connection, isn't it?
Yes,
Very
yeah,
emotional.
absolutely. Well, right now at the time of recording, it's a Mercury retrograde. We talked earlier about how I can't I can't get my words out at the moment. My thinking is a bit back to front. But the reason I mentioned that actually has just gone completely out of my head, ironically enough. Um, Mercury retrograde.
We're talking about herbs in your environment.
Oh, goodness. Elizabeth, my brain just completely went. Sorry. I'm going to have to.
Anyway, that was what I felt was that it's important to have a very close emotional relationship, intellectual relationship, spiritual relationship, magical relationship with the plants that grow around you. And
Mm,
therefore not to just treat them as a commodity, because I was trained to just buy gallons of this stuff and then give people gallons of stuff. And actually it's very subtle. It works very subtly, plants, medicine,
mm-hmm.
and it needs to be respected. It needs to be
Yes,
respected.
it does. I
Yeah.
remembered what I was going to say.
Good.
So I was looking at your acknowledgements, and you actually thanked a specific plant, and it was lobelia, and you thanked lobelia for inspiring you to write that book. So I was wondering, in the spirit of Mercury retrograde, um, to kind of maybe revisit that kind of connection with lobelia, and why was it that lobelia inspired you to write that book at all?
Yeah, it's not something I use now. It's a Schedule 3, I
Mm-hmm.
think, or
Mm-hmm.
Schedule 4, whatever it's called
Yeah.
these days. Because I don't think you can grow it in the UK, but incredibly powerful spiritual herb that was a
Mm-hmm.
teaching herb, and it's a herb that is used for asthma. We used to make them into little cigarettes, and you'd smoke them to stop an asthma attack.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very spiritual Native American plant, and it just told me to speak about it. It just was
Mm-hmm.
really clear. This is what you're here to do. Just get on with
Right.
it.
Okay. That sounds
So
very
I did.
throat chakra kind of
Yeah,
opening and opening the airways and so was Women's Book of Herbs your first herbal book? Because you've gone on
it
to write
was.
many
Yeah,
more since. Yeah.
yeah. I'm just finishing number 10. Yeah,
Right, my goodness. And was
yeah.
that the most, is that, oh, you've just finished. So I know that you've been, I've seen you post a lot about aging gracefully. So was that number 10 or is there another one?
Number 9. That was
That's
last
number
year.
9, right?
9. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That was just because I was 70 last year, and it felt
Mm-hmm.
important to find out the truth about aging and how to not
Right.
fall apart as you get older. And there's
Oh.
so much research. There's some really wonderful research about
Mm.
kindness,
Mm-hmm.
about getting out in the community. And food doesn't seem to be that important, but what's it for the longevity? But what's important is what you don't eat, and it's all the
Mm-hmm.
things that the rubbish food and
Mm.
junk food and stuff like that. But it's connection is the thing that keeps you young and keeps you healthy,
Mm.
and also not watching TV or
Mm-hmm.
scrolling on social media endlessly, which makes you paranoid and introverted, and doing exercise and all that sort of thing. But it
Yes.
was just it was really interesting what a physiological effect being kind and generous and
Mm.
involved in your community has on your total well-being. So
Mm.
it's not just being a good person, it's like has a really strong benefit for you to do those
Yes.
things.
Well, you've got calendula on that the cover of that book, and as you were describing those qualities of sort of being kind and generous and so on, that image actually just came to my mind. I was thinking, was there a significant reason for including calendula on the cover of that book in particular?
Uh, no, I don't. You get a chance to say no to covers, but you don't
Yeah,
often get a chance to choose them. But
right.
Calendula is one of my beloveds. It's one of my
Mm.
beloveds, because
Hmm.
it's so multivalent. You can use it on so many levels. It's
Yes.
great physically, and it's great
Yeah.
emotionally. It's great magically. It's got association with death and all sorts of things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love Calendula, and nearly everyone gets it in their mixture at
Oh,
some
really?
point.
Okay, that's a sort
Yeah,
of key
yeah.
one for you. Uh-huh.
Because
That's such,
it's a
yeah.
herb of the sun, because it's a new
Hmm.
moon in Leo today.
Yeah.
So herb of the sun, but it's gentle. It's not
Yeah.
too fiery and heating.
Yeah.
So I wrote a Substack last week about saffron, which you
Hmm.
could also grow here. It used to grow in Essex. Culpeper
Right.
talks about
Okay.
saffron growing in Saffron Walden, which is in Essex.
Hmm.
Apparently there's big farms that grew it anyway, and that's a very fiery herb of the sun. So you wouldn't use that with lots of people, but marigold,
Yeah.
everybody could take it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's so universal. Well, we often think of it as a balm for children's bumps and scrapes and things. And I always think of Leo season as such. Well, actually, Cancer and Leo, in fact, because we're kind of on that cusp of that today, because we're moving into the new moon in Leo later this evening. While we're still right now, it's the moon in Cancer, and I've been very much focused on inner child themes recently, and yeah, it just feels like that Cancer Leo time of the year. It's the school holidays for many people, certainly in the Western world, and it's a time when we can sort of feel more playful under the sun and warming up under the sun. There's that really heart-opening feeling of calendula in particular, but also that solar energy. So it feels really nice to be meeting on this kind of cusp day, and yeah, it feels like a nice full circle from that aging gracefully and kind of reconnecting with the inner child as well. Is there any
Mm.
other herbs in that book in particular that kind of really stood out to you as you're writing it?
Actually, one that didn't go in there that went into another book was the first herb that I really worked with was yarrow. And
Mm.
yarrow, Achillea millefolium, is herb of Venus, but it's got very martial qualities as well. And I just love yarrow, and I think it's a kind of herb you use for trauma, especially
Hmm.
gynecological trauma, but also for
Mm.
people who need a bit of backbone. Because if you look at the
Hmm.
actual physical structure of the plant, it's very strong, and it's quite hard to actually pick it
Hmm.
because the stem is really tough, and that
Yep.
shows you what kind of plant it is. And
Mm.
I think it's a warrior plant, and so you use it for people who are out there protesting or who are fighting for justice or who've been downtrodden by the system, that kind of thing.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love yarrow.
Beautiful. Actually, as you're mentioning it, I'm thinking, oh, I could probably do with some of that because my lower back has been kind of chronically stiff since I went out to Indonesia after my dad had a stroke, and for almost every day for a year and a half, I was lifting him out of his wheelchair and
Oh,
into bed and into his wheelchair every single day. And well, it's been a couple of years now since he died, but my back's still like that. So as you're talking about the qualities of yarrow, I'm thinking, oh, I could maybe do with a little bit of yarrow in my herbal tea blend. I've got some tea at the moment. I've got some rosemary in today's blend. And you're
true,
talking about
yes.
a plant that you always put in. And my blends always seem to have plantain in it, which I read a blog that you wrote on plantain not that long ago. And you're saying you
Yeah,
weren't that familiar with it. And it made me smile because I thought that's my herb that I like. I see that as a harmonizer herb. It just sort of
yeah.
blends everything really nicely. And it has that similar, well, not similar, well, similar in the sense that it's often made into balms, and it just has that kind of knitting, kind of binding kind of texture, but also really gentle, so gentle that everyone can have it in a similar way to calendula.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think it's an energetic thing. When I
Mm-hmm,
was training, I certainly noticed, even in a training clinic where it's supposed to be random who your patients are,
mm-hmm,
you would attract certain kinds of people, and other people would attract certain kinds of people, and that translates into your practice, who you
mm-hmm,
attract.
mm-hmm.
And that's your energy, and it's their energy. And I think it's the same with the herbs. The ones that call out to you
Yes,
are the ones that are attracted by your energy, and sometimes the things you need, and sometimes the things you recognize. So yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Ah,
I have strong feelings about plants I don't use as well.
right.
Valerian is one that I just don't like it.
You don't like it,
And
and well, just personally, the effect that it has on you personally, or just other things, because it's quite a
it
you're an Aries, right? And
I'm an
whenever I think
Aries.
of Valerian, what I've learned about Valerian is that you don't give it to people with a hotter temperament, and so I'm wondering if that's maybe some of the resistance to Valerian.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's
Mhm.
heating.
Yeah.
It's heating. Yeah, I just don't use it.
Mm.
I've
Mm.
because I suppose I attract people who are quite fiery.
Yeah.
Maybe people
Okay.
who've got low fire as well. But
Yeah.
if someone's got low fire, I'd use herbs of the sun. I would not use something like that or ginger. I would use those kind of
Hmm.
choleric herbs, not
Yeah.
no. I don't know. There's something. What would I say about Valerian? Something dark, and dark's not bad because I like
Yeah.
things like Mugwort and stuff. I
Yes.
really like all those, but
Yeah.
something that is antithetical to my energy. So I
Yes.
don't use.
It's an
Yeah, I
interesting one.
cross the road.
It's a kind of Marmite herb, I think, Valerian.
Yes, yes,
Although
yes,
I'll say that, but I remember when while I was still training, I used to work at Napier's Herbalist in Edinburgh, and one of my jobs was dispensing the tinctures. And I remember whenever I dispensed Valerian, it would smell like wet dog. It just had that
yes,
kind of smelly socks kind of smell to it. But then at a
yes.
certain point, it stopped, and I don't know if it was like a psychosomatic thing because one of my colleagues would say, "Oh, I like it. It smells like Parma violet." I think that's the word. Is that a sweet or something like no? Is that some kind
Yeah,
of violet sweet? And then after she said that, it kind of took on a more floral smell to me. And actually now I can tolerate it quite well, only in tiny amounts, tiny, everything in its dose. And for me, I think with Valerian anyway, you would never give anyone huge amounts of the stuff, mainly because it got such a bad smell. But yeah, it is a funny one. So there's certain people who just can't touch it. And funny you say mugwort because I actually have some dried
and
mugwort. This was dried using the on your the front of your car, forgotten on the front of the car for 3 days technique, dehydration. I was reading an article about how to dehydrate plants without a dehydrator, and using a hot car is actually quite an effective method.
it's a good idea.
Yeah.
That is
um,
such a good idea. I hadn't thought of that.
yeah.
Hmm.
Do
Did
you
it
have a
work?
It does, yeah. They're super crispy. I think I should probably put them in a jar now because as you know, it's good to kind of keep them in a cool, dark area once they're. But I kind of just like having them out, and I have been doing a lot of. In fact, before I picked mugwort, I've been doing a lot of dreaming in this past month. And funnily enough, since I've picked the mugwort, I'm not dreaming as much. So that's a little bit ironic. But I think because I spotted it, I'm like, oh, I'm doing all this dream work at the moment. And yeah. So it's funny how herbs can kind of play with you as well. They don't always do what you expect. But yeah, it is a very magical herb and a psychic kind of enhancer. And so I'm curious because I know you work with herbs in a very intuitive way. Have you had some interesting experiences with mugwort as a plant in your group work or just for yourself?
Yeah, it's one that I use in my workshops with people who've worked that way before because it
Mm-hmm.
can be a bit alarming
Mm.
for the first time. But absolutely, it's like a third eye.
Mm-hmm.
It's about visioning. It's about seeing ways out. It's about picking up energy. It's about connecting with whatever you think of the collective unconscious or the grid or whatever you call it, connecting in with other kinds of energy. It's also it's not as strong as Yarrow in a warrior sense, but it does have
Mm-hmm.
that grit in there that it's quite powerful and
Mm-hmm.
non-negotiable, really. So
Mm-hmm.
it's I know that people use it a lot, but I would put a bit of caution in there because if you're too open or you're not grounded, it can be a bit spacey,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not a good thing, and unless you're in a very safe environment. And
Yeah.
anyway, actually, I don't think it's such a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's yeah, if you wanted to do path working, ritual work, group work, that kind of thing and
Mm-hmm.
everyone sees eyes when they work magically. So
Interesting.
I did one at the power NIM, the Power of Plants.
Mm-hmm.
One year I did one of my meditations and I did mugwort. Um,
Right.
And they were going, we see eyes, everyone. And there were like about 30 people. So it was a really big group, but they all saw eyes. And that's a very Mugwortian thing. It's like watching you, watching them, that kind
Mm,
of thing. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. It's very lovely. And it makes fantastic incense if you want to
Mm.
do workshops, burn a
Hmm.
bit of mugwort, or if you
Lovely.
want to do readings or those kind of things. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they use
They're
it in acupuncture, don't they? The sort of moxibustion.
Boxer. Yeah.
Moxa. They sort of,
Yeah, they
I think
do.
it is probably like some sort of incense. They kind of, I think, crush it because I've seen it in like little sticks it is like a large incense stick actually when I've seen it being used, and they will hold it over meridian points and so on. Um,
Yeah, yeah. But also, you can actually, if that one, if it's not too dry, you can actually
mhm.
rub the leaves and turn them into a little ball.
Mhm.
Just a little leaf. You rub it, you rub it, you rub it, and you
Mm.
turn it into a ball, and you can actually burn it. So that
Oh,
you'd put that
okay.
on a needle and then set fire to it. Yeah, it's
Oh,
like heating and opening the channels. Yeah,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
nice.
So
It's
I'm not sure that it's Artemisia vulgaris. I think they might be an eastern kind of mugwort, which is Artemisia. I can't remember what it is, but the one that they talked about using with
different type.
COVID. There's
Okay.
another kind of one. Do you
Absinthium,
remember?
the word wormwood or
No, no, no,
not
not
the
no. It wasn't. Well,
absinthium.
no, it was a particular
Um,
Eastern one. Artemisia something or other. That is China, Japan.
hmm,
There's areas around there, but I don't know. That's what I think. I might be wrong.
yes, yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting that warrior connection because Artemis is a goddess as opposed to Achillea, which Achilles is was a was a hero. Well, he was the one who was dipped in the river, and so yeah, they've got different kind of energies, and also it's a moon herb. I've also heard it referred to as a herb of Venus. What would
I
you
give it to Venus,
you give
not the
it to
moon. I don't
Venus?
think it's
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I think maybe it's because of the silvery underleaf that it has that kind of connection
Yes,
with the moon, and that it's used for so many women's health kind of
yes,
issues and
yes.
so on. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think if you're doing path working also, because that's a
mm,
Venusian take on it,
mhm,
there's the Saturnian take, working
mhm,
with mushrooms, which is
right.
something that's really powerful. And I've been working because when I was taught herbal medicine, we didn't do mushrooms, so it's a new
Mm,
learning for me. Working with things like turkey tail,
mhm,
tramates, and working with them psychically, incredibly powerful, ancient, ancestral
yeah.
energy, amazing energy, amazing. So for
Mm,
people who want to get in touch with that energy but are not that grounded, don't go to mugwort, go to turkey tail or the other mushrooms and go down rather than go
ah,
up.
oh,
Yeah, but
interesting. Yeah,
beautiful ancestral stuff comes up with the
yeah.
mushroom. Because they're
How
herbs of
nice.
Saturn, you see. So it's about
Yeah.
the past, it's about
Mm,
age, it's about
mhm,
ancestors.
mm. Yeah, I also we didn't have cover mushrooms at all in my herbal training. So yeah, that's interesting. Sort of contrasting the more Saturnian grounding energy with something more heady and kind of more third eye opening. Because it's nice to have that balance. Well, for certain people, I suppose, but maybe people who constitutionally need a bit of uplifting wouldn't need the extra
True,
grounding, right?
true.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's pick your herb carefully.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
for some people it's more appropriate to go through ancestral
Hmm.
routes than to fly out.
Yeah, yeah, yes. I remember well from attending your workshop that how differently people respond to different
Yes,
herbs.
yes.
Because I mean, we were chatting just before about pop astrology that's going around online, and yeah, it's there's a lot of misleading stuff out there. So it's and certainly with this culture of just having little snippets of information, we don't have the nuances. People think of a herb for this or herb for that, and it's easy with this kind of day and age of Ah,
I think for me, because I'm a Londoner
yes.
and I'm a radical, I follow Culpeper, who was a Londoner and
Hmm.
practiced not very far away from where I live,
Ah.
actually. And he was a radical too, was against the
Hmm.
king and
Right.
fought in the parliamentary
Yes.
army and
Yes.
was really political. And he was
Hmm.
really against the College of Physicians, who imported all this
Hmm.
complicated stuff from overseas and
Mm.
charged a huge amount of money for it. And did all sorts of dodgy stuff. And you could translate that into the pharmaceutical. You could absolutely
Yeah.
translate that to what
Yes.
happens in medicine today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I follow what Culpeper says, because he's part of a long tradition.
Hmm.
But also I like his politics, you know.
Yes.
To me,
Yeah.
it matters that you situate
Absolutely.
yourself on the right side.
Mhm. Yeah. And yeah, what was great about Culpeper is just sort of demystifying what previously was only held in the hands of power people who could speak Latin, people who had education and academia, and actually letting people know that, these are the plants that are growing all around us. And I feel like we do need that in other ways in terms of reconnecting with our kind of disconnection with nature in many ways, because that was something, he was able to. What I love about the word drugs is it actually comes from the word dried plants, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
And when we think about drugs, it's like this sort of mystical powdered substance. We don't know where it came from. But what I love about learning herbal medicine is that actually you can see the natural living plant that it comes from, and being able to work this in skillful ways to help to bring about healing and wholeness and so on. But it's available to all of us. And yeah, I really appreciate that about Culpeper's legacy, that he encourages us to kind of reclaim our power, essentially, isn't it?
totally. That's what he was about. And
Yeah.
also, I've got a lovely story about mullein as well, which is
Hmm.
another one in that first book. Because plants appear when they're needed. And in the first
Hmm.
year of the plague years that we had here, where we had lockdown,
Hmm.
mullein grew all
Oh,
over my where I collect my plants, which I'm not telling you. But anyway, it grew all over
yes,
where my
yes.
plants. I usually collect my plants, and it hadn't been there before. And these huge 8 foot, 9 foot mullein plants were there
Mm.
going, take me, take
Yes,
me. Because obviously it was a respiratory illness. So I felt
yeah,
like that was amazing that mullein appeared. And then the next year it wasn't there, didn't come back.
right. Ah, that's interesting.
There was lots of mugwort the next year.
Okay, that was what was needed for you then.
I
Um,
think I no, I actually think that people it was offering us insight,
mhm,
deepening, because the second year of the lockdowns, people were getting weary and it was all a bit hard to bear for a lot of people.
mhm,
And I think the mugwort was there to give you a bit of vision and an
mhm,
overview that,
mhm.
this too will end kind of
Yeah.
thing. That's
Yes.
just two plants in central London where I live, so it's not in a wilderness either. Yeah.
Amazing. I want to ask a bit more about your work traveling around the world, this being the Wanderlust Herbal Podcast. And another
Yeah.
thing I spotted when I was sort of flicking through your book just before we came, was that in where is it now? Oh, it's your the description at the beginning of who you are, and it says Elisabeth Brooke is an Aries witch, born and raised in England. She's studied, practiced, and taught herbal medicine, astrology, psychotherapy, and women's mysteries. She is a dancer and an artist, and currently living in the Caribbean. So I thought, oh well, that's lovely. That at the time that you were writing, was it when it was published that you're living there, or was it? Did
It
you
was
write it while you were
when
there?
no, I wrote it here in
Mm,
London, and then
mhm.
I did the edit. I did the
Right.
edit sitting by a swimming pool in the Caribbean. I remember
Lovely.
that because
Uh-huh.
it wasn't done online in those days. So I just had a
Right.
DHL pass, and I was my
Uh-huh.
little red pencil. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yes. I was I went there with another herbalist called Nina
Mm.
Nissen,
Hmm.
and we got a job with this charity working on a herbal medicine project. And
Wow.
I could talk to you at length about
Mm-hmm.
overseas aid, but
Wow.
suffice to say, it did not work out
Oh no?
as these things. But anyway,
Right.
we went to Nicaragua. We saw the
Mm.
amazing stuff they were doing in Nicaragua and Costa Rica, and then we ended up
Mm.
in the Dominican Republic,
Mm-hmm.
where they were doing some stuff, but not very much stuff. But I got in touch with the people from Haiti. There are lots of Haitians in the Dominican Republic,
Mm-hmm.
and they are using lots of herbs for medicine, but also for voodoo, which is their
Right.
spiritual tradition. Yeah.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
so did you observe much of the kind of voodoo practice when you were out there? Right.
They have these things called baños, which is
Uh-huh.
Spanish for bath, and they
Mm.
probably have it in the East too, where
Right.
you get a bowl with spring water and you put your herbal mixture, dry herbs in the water, and you put it out, and you get the light of the sun to reflect in the water. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got it's like a bit like making a pot flower remedy, and then you
Mm.
move the bowl around to follow the passage of the sun through the day, and
Right.
then you strain it and you mix honey and some perfume or essential oils with the water, and you pour
Mm.
it over your head.
Oh, lovely. Yes, they
And
do have
that's like,
something similar in Asia, the flower baths. Um,
uh
and yeah, they'll often do it as a kind of purification ceremonies at
yes,
kind of before a wedding or like big ceremonies, things like that, or some significant occasion. So that sounds very similar.
yes, and they would do it
Mm.
on Tuesdays and Fridays because they were their
Oh,
magical days,
okay.
out of full moons also, and
Mm.
yes, it's a kind of cleansing, but it's also very psychically opening. I had amazing dreams,
Mm.
so many amazing experiences after doing banyos. I did
Wow.
lots. I did
Right.
lots because I got to know
Mm.
the women in the
Right.
Botanica who were Haitian women, and they
Wow.
were very,
What
very,
an experience.
whatever the word is, surprised to see me there, I think,
Right.
as a white woman. But
Uh-huh.
they made up banyos for me twice a week for a long
Oh.
time, and I just
Oh,
took them, and they were
beautiful.
wonderful,
Oh, that
wonderful. Yeah,
sounds blissful. Oh, have you ever tried
yeah.
to recreate something similar back home using local plants or in your own
Don't
way?
have a garden. I think if I had a
Uh-huh.
garden, I might. I know that Herbalist America, because they have more space in America, they have
Yes.
old baths in their gardens that they
Mm.
fill up
Hmm.
with water, good water, and they put herbs in, and they let the sun shine on it during the day, and then you have a bath before you do a
Mm.
ritual or whatever it is you're doing a meeting.
Uh-huh.
But it's not very possible where I am. I do like the idea of foot baths,
Mm.
yoni steams are another thing that I like.
Yes.
I do recommend that a
Lovely.
lot actually. I
Nice.
haven't done hand baths, but I very much like the herbalism of Maurice Messiguet. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you've come across him.
I have.
Beautiful
Yes.
herbalism, very simple,
Uh-huh.
locally grown, easily available herbs, and all he used were hand baths and foot
Mm.
baths, which is really nice.
I want to start doing more foot baths because we only have a shower. We're in quite a small place here where we've moved to. And yeah, I miss having a bath. But I've been thinking recently I could do some lovely self-care and make myself a lovely foot bath every night. That's my
Good.
sort of challenge. Well, it came to me, but I haven't actually started doing it. But I'd like to get some salts or some Epsom salts and
I would put mugwort in there.
yes, okay.
If you're dreaming, put some
Yeah,
mugwort in there.
before bedtime. Maybe with a bit of
Yeah,
lavender as well.
yeah,
I love the smell
yeah.
of lavender. I'm looking
Or
at a little
vervain, if
cozy.
you've got vervain. I'm very fond of
Mm,
vervain.
mm, mhm. In the foot bath.
Yeah, yeah. I like that idea because we were trained to use, as I said, like, pints of tinctures. And
Yeah.
lots of people don't want to take alcohol, and alcohol's not
Hmm.
great for you anyway.
Yes.
And I love the idea of using it physically on your body. I think that's so
Mm,
nice.
yes. And would you
Yeah.
take a tea internally while you're having a foot bath?
Yeah,
There's no
why
reason
not?
why
Why
not.
not? Put it under your
Yeah.
pillow, put a piece under your pillow.
Yes. Oh, I do have that. I've kind of seem to have it sprinkled all over the place at the moment. Yeah, no, I've been dreaming a lot. And it is coming back despite the kind of introduction of mugwort stopping. I think I was overthinking it, talking about overthinking, and when you think of something too much, a bit like, as herbalists, our brains are stuffed with information, and then we kind of lose that sense of we think there's a herb you should use for that, and you do have to after you do all the learning, you sort of have to let go after a while, don't you? And
You do, and you have to learn to read the person. You have to look at who's there and listen to what they say. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's why knowing hundreds of herbs is really unhelpful. It's better to learn 20 and really know them, and then you can, because that's another hobby horse of mine, is to not give, polypharmacy, to give 4 herbs, or maybe 4 herbs and a tea with another couple, but keep it really focused and simple, because that way, especially if you're a student, you know what's working.
Yes.
Very important.
Yeah. Oh, well, I could continue talking. There's so many experiences that you've had that we could go into various rabbit holes. But we'll have to come to close now. I just want to ask maybe a couple of last closing questions. Well, one is there a kind of go-to herb for travel, or that you take traveling with you, or that you've met while you're on your travels, that has become a go-to? That's maybe 2 questions, but you can you can read into that question whatever wants to come forward.
I think if I take one, I take lavender, essential oil of lavender, because it's multivalent, insect bites, insomnia, stomach upsets, that kind of thing. But I always head for the market, go to the market, especially if you're going to, the east where you are, or the west where I was. There's going to be all sorts of interesting stuff in the market. So if you can get to the market and have a chat, or get a translator to have a chat, find out what they're selling. As I said, I wrote a Substack on saffron, and there was a picture that I put in the Substack of this saffron shop, a shop selling saffron in Iran, and I thought, I'd love to go and just. But I think in the Middle East is like that, amazing, and probably Asia is the same. Just go and see what they're doing, and take it from there. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Beautiful. A herb that stood out to me because I'm back in Scotland now, but I was recently in Malaysia, and they use the ginger flower before it's flower, the ginger bud, which you don't see. Obviously, you get the ginger root here that we use in our cooking all the time, but there you can also get the ginger flower, and they put it in a lot of curries, but I was just experimenting with it, and because it's very new and it's so beautiful. It's the kind of on a stalk in this pink kind of bulb before it opens, because when it opens, it's like got lots of multi petals and things like that. But it's a beautiful kind of waxy, almost like they call it the torch flower, but it's before it opens out. It's a bit like a lotus bud almost, and it's got really special, fragrant and floral taste. I'm hallucinating the smell of it now. It's really lovely.
Have you had it as a tea?
I have, yeah. It's delicious.
What's that? Is it? I thought it's milder than ginger.
It's milder than ginger, but it has got a warmth to it, as a lot of tropical kind of plants do. But it's soft. I wouldn't call it soft. It's definitely like got a punch to it, but it's gentler. It's got a fragrance to it. There's a sort of mystery about it, and it's lovely. And all sorts of
I want some.
Yeah, I know. You probably can get it in Asian supermarkets. So, although I know that you've got a thing for the more local plants, but I think in London these days you probably can get it locally. Bunga Kantan is the Malaysian name. Bunga, which means flower, and Kantan, I think that means torch. And then there'll be other common names, but it's a lovely one, and just beautiful to look at as well. Feels like to me some sort of sun and Venus, because it's definitely got that heat, but it's got the beauty. But I guess a lot of flowers do anyway, because they carry whatever type of plant it is. There's a Venusian quality to a flower in general.
Oh, how exciting. Yeah.
And I know that you're also offering an exciting course coming up in September. I'd love for you to share a bit more about that, just as we come to close, and also how people can find you and connect with you online if they want to learn more about your books and your work.
Yeah, I'm doing a 1 year course teaching about astrology and herbalism. I've been using it for over 40 years and in my practice. And it's a mixture of working with temperament and also working with the decumbiture. But it was for people who are in practice or students so that they can use astrology without having to go through the many, many years that astrology teaching usually offers. So it's very practically based, and it's also doing it early on a Sunday morning from London so that it's okay for people in the south and the east and also for the west. So
Amazing.
we can all get together, and we do, yeah, we do get together and
Fantastic.
talk about astrology. It's on my website. There's a contact email, so if you contact me, we'll put you on the waiting list, and it's
Great.
starting in September. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I'm very interested, and I love the fact that it's early on a Sunday morning UK time, and that it can apply to the whole world. I think that's, as I was
Yeah.
saying to you earlier, I haven't heard of anyone doing early morning Sunday offerings, and I think it's genius because it's such a sacred time of day, and it's a beautiful kind of beginning and ending kind of threshold period, which feels very magical in itself, the timing of it. And I've done your courses before, so I know it's going to be wonderful, and an amazing distillation of all of your gorgeous books. Do you want to give us a
And
tiny?
practical because
Uh-huh.
I'm Taurus rising. Stuff needs to work. It's no good if
Uh-huh.
it doesn't work. It has to work. So I've
Right.
worked out a system that works and is practical, and you can use it, and it's not super complicated, because there is an
Ah,
alleyway that astrologers can go down and can get lost in technique and forget that it needs to work.
yes. Well, that
It
appeals
needs
to
to work.
me. Yeah, I've got my moon in Taurus and Virgo rising, so my earthy nature enjoys some putting
Yeah.
things into practical action. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Elisabeth,
Yeah.
and thank you everyone for tuning in to Wanderlust Herbal Podcast. Go and check out Elisabeth's Substack and website. Did you give us the Substack name? Is it how do
It's
people
just
find?
Elisabeth Brooke, spelt with an S. And
Mhm.
my website is elisabethbrooke.com. Quite easy to find.
Great, good. And I may well, if there's any listeners who are joining Elisabeth's astrology and herbal course, then perhaps we will all continue there because I hope to attend. That sounds like a really beautiful experience. And till next time, thank you for tuning in, and see you again soon. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.